Welcome to Optily Radio, your regular 30-minute dose of everything you need to accelerate your e-commerce marketing success.
What is one thing that our listeners can start to implement today that will help them accelerate their business, that they will come away from this episode with? What is that one thing, according to you?
We have a huge amount of data at our fingertips. Maybe the best advice I can give you is don't just look at the data that let's say the channel that you're advertising on is giving you. Be a little bit skeptical, a little bit cynical. Understand that they're not lying to you, right? So if Facebook says to you, hey, we got you 100 conversions, and Google says we got you 100 conversions, and you only got 150, then it's not that they're lying, it's just that they don't understand what else is happening on a customer's path to purchase outside of their own platform. Either using something like Google Analytics or an attribution solution like Optily, start to try and decouple that so that you're in a better position to understand where to invest and invest in the things that are having the highest impact on conversions when you look at them across channels. And with something again like Optily, you can see those recommendations, those pointers towards what you could or maybe should be doing to get better value. And then obviously with our solution, with one click, you can implement those changes. But you don't have to look too far, is what I'm saying, in terms of the data is available to you between the platforms, connecting your Google Analytics, looking at your e-commerce sales stats. Try and form a unified view of that is the first step. Because then you can see, this is what's happening. This is how customers are interacting with me through advertising and what they do when they come to my site then after either seeing an ad or clicking on an ad, and use that data then to make better decisions.
One thing, get vaccinated. No, that's not a choice for a lot of people because they can't get it. The easy thing is structured data, rich results. It can really, even if you're in position, 5, and it will probably get you more clicks if you have those rich results on there. So structured data is a really great way to see a big bang for your buck without influencing directly rankings, but having a better click-through rate. But it really depends. Every site has their own thing. If you have structured data already, what's that one big thing for you? It really depends. If your homepage title tag says homepage, probably want to work on that first. If Google can't crawl your website, you probably want to work on that first. So everything is it depends, as John Mueller would say from Google. Mm-hmm. It depends on your current situation. It's not like one thing you have to do today. It depends on where you are.
So I'll say this to people who are currently running shopping ads. So if you are currently running shopping ads, I would recommend going into your Google Merchant Center and finding all the products that have not even sent clicks in the past 30 days, but are active. So they're active products, but Google is not serving them. And I would recommend pulling those down, downloading those, setting a custom label onto those products, and then starting a smart shopping campaign for those 0-click products. Because what we have found is that, again, you have things like limited budget and that. So Google basically does the best they can with the budget that they have and the products to find like what their algorithm says should convert. That doesn't mean those products that kind of never see the light of day, it doesn't mean they don't have opportunity. It just means that they aren't like strong enough in the algorithm to be worth it yet for Google. Sure, if you had unlimited budget, maybe eventually they'd get the light of day. So what we found is that allows those 0-click products. It's almost like Google's like, oh yeah, I forgot about these products. They're actually pretty good. Here's some that we could sell too. And what you'll find is that in almost every time we've ever done this in an account, it's like incrementally raised sales. It hasn't just stolen from others. So it's kind of a good little way to get Google focused on products that they weren't normally thinking about.
There are a lot of things we could talk about. I would say they have to get closer to their customer. They need to understand who their customer is. You need to really get much closer to your customer and develop a relationship with your customer. And that's something that a lot of small businesses are very good at. They just have to take that online now. You have to have a website, and you have to have capabilities on your website that enable a more a richer and better experience. Make it easy for the customer. Convenience is sort of the watchword of the new digital economy. Make it easy for the customer to do business with you, to find the information she or he needs to conduct the transaction.
I have not actually mentioned this in this entire episode, which is shocking for me. Your FAQs page could use some love. 1, if you don't have an FAQs page, your homework is to create one. 2, review the questions that you currently have on there and compare them to what your customers are asking via email or support, social media, wherever it might be. Add those additional questions on there. And 3rd, how do I begin? Let's go with one more. Add one final question on your FAQs page saying, what if my question was not answered here? And direct them to your support, whether it's through chat, through your email, phone, whatever it might be. Never let that be a dead end for your customer support.
Let's just stick with funnels. Let's have a proper funnel set up. Make sure that your messaging resonates with who you're targeting and at what stage of the funnel, because you'll see your results maximized a lot better that way.
Yep, kind of circling back and summarizing what we talked about for the most part is that your audience, I could guarantee, visit more website than just Google and Facebook. And what the beauty of what a lot of these platforms do, especially Quora, is that you can set up an account, you can place the pixel on your sites and start collecting an audience. So you get an idea of how many of your current site visitors actually use the platform. And you can do these for the most part without ever giving the channels your credit card information. So at least from a discovery standpoint of should I even be using this, there's no excuse because you don't have to run anything. You don't have to spend a cent to at least do some discovery phase of this. So spend the time and look at all the other channels and find out, get in front of where your target audience actually likes to be, not where you think you should be just based on the overall world population and how they visit some of these channels.
And honestly, this is something that's ongoing. QA. There's nothing worse than when you have your retargeting ads show up next to some really horrible content and there's a brand safety question and you're now turning around and having to make necessary retroactive changes. Or one of my favorite ones, and this came from a client that we took over from another agency. No one was monitoring their GDN. No one was monitoring their YouTube. And this was for a nutrition client. And 40% of their media spend went to children's nursery rhyme videos and kindergarten websites. So if they were already tight on funds, so all I think is, all right, you spent 40% of money on this because no one was doing ongoing monitoring and QA process. You could have reallocated that just as easily and stretched it out further and gotten a better result. So the best thing that anyone can do, and I always come to the stance, is QA and don't stop QA. Make it as an ongoing thing.
My biggest takeaway for you is think about your customer personas, leverage your data, and build experiences that you would enjoy interacting with. When you build with your customer in mind, and when you segment your customers into those personas and target them with the right message, whether it's ads, whether it's your landing page, whether it's email, what have you, you will be able to succeed. Where people fall down is that they don't take the time to understand who their customers are, who their best customers are, what their margins are per customer, and then they get all upset when their ROI isn't there. Take the time to figure that out. It's a worthwhile endeavor, and then message map appropriately.
I think just to be patient and to be thoughtful about what they're doing. I go back to the earlier point, like 3 metrics are better than 30. There's always an argument to do more, but I would argue that, simpler visualization, being thoughtful about things, being patient with others. There's that famous quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but like, if I had more time, I'd send you a shorter letter. I think that's very applicable when it comes to presenting data.
So I think when it comes down to Amazon specifically, it's to think of it as, the phrase I use is to invest to grow and to think long-term about it. So we've talked about don't do short-term tactics with reviews, think more sustainably about your growth and not piling into Black Friday and things like that. It's, consumer behavior shifting towards marketplaces and websites. There's different dynamics to the two of them, but I think a long-term approach where investing to grow for the long term is absolutely the right approach. Amazon's not a get-rich-quick thing. And if you think that way, then you're going to make the wrong decisions.
All marketing starts with a fundamental understanding of the customer. That's it. If you understand who your customers are, what they care about, and you integrate that into the core of your marketing execution, and you give it time, the results will follow. The problem I think most people have is they never get to that point where they feel confident. And the entirety of their marketing execution is sort of indirectly a way of trying to answer that question. But they're looking at it from the wrong basis. They're looking at it from the basis of like, are my marketing KPIs improving? Did my conversion rate go from like 2.1 to 2.3%? We see a lift in conversion. And these numbers are useful barometers to try and get to the core of the issue, but they are not the issue itself. And so regardless of the methods that you're using, surveys, focus groups, our research methodology, A/B testing, what have you, you need to get to a point where you feel really confident and situated in that issue. And once you get there, that's the foundation. After you have that foundation, all this MarTech, this AI, sentiment analysis, trend analysis, personalization software, that's really where these tools can start having impact in providing lift. But a lack of fundamentals can never be compensated for through technology.
I would say really thinking strategically about differentiation and what you can do to set your business apart in a meaningful way, because there are only more businesses coming online every single day. So competition is only going to increase. And so you're likely not going to be able to even rely on what might have worked a few years ago. So if you started on Amazon in 2014 or 2015, you may be sitting really comfortably with thousands of reviews on your product and doing really well, but you can't just lean back and call it a day, because there are other companies that are going to and are coming in and doing a better job. And so if you don't also figure out this differentiation piece, then eventually you are going to be losing some ground to these companies that really are committed to figuring that out.
Through your research, I think there's many more tools available to you than you ever thought imaginable. Companies like us, we reinventing the space. We're trying our best to make your life easier, especially for online entrepreneurs. And there's a whole community directed towards e-commerce and business and online businesses for them to succeed. So take your time, do your research, learn about revenue-based finance. Companies like us are in the space. Not everyone is equal, and because of that, I think you should go with data-driven approaches. Like I mentioned, 45% of our portfolio are female founders. I think that's very important because the industry is not perfect in general. So I think be concise where you go. Try to find the right people that support you and your growth and your objectives, because sometimes those companies are in it for the short term. If you find a long-term partner, I think that's probably the best thing to do. And and take your time, and especially now coming up to Christmas, buy early, get your stock in while you can. Don't make the mistake that we see hundreds of businesses make all the time, right? Get in there early, make sure you got the stock, and fulfill your customers' orders on time. And should there be a problem coming up to Christmas with Black Friday, be quick to resolve those customer queries and work hard to that, because reputation is everything that we've learned. We use that in our underwriting techniques as well to make sure that types of businesses that we invest in care about their users. So those are the few kind of takeaways that I would say.
Well, it's funny. So I've talked about this a few times on recent podcasts, and maybe it's just because it's top of mind, but you should have kind of like a operating system to run your business, actually. So I'm a huge fan of Traction and the EOS framework by Gino Wickman. Give that a read and then kind of make it work for you. That probably changed my agency. Our agency means, like, once we kind of figured that out, like, the rest was history, and like we had a real business. I think before that we were just glorified freelancers. Understanding when things are actually issues, how to actually plan appropriately, how to make true business decisions for your kind of North Stars are things that some people don't realize they need help with until they kind of understand the impact it can have.
Is the toughest question of the day. For me, it's always looking at the long game. So it is really about having that strategic plan for the next few years, understanding where you want to be and reverse engineering what that's going to take, and understanding sort of that risk analysis of what could get in the way of that success. And so is that scalability? Can your website potentially handle the traffic that you hope to get this Black Friday? Or do you need to load test, and do you need a team that's going to help with the auto scaling like JetRails? Have you been properly addressing security and PCI compliance? Do you know if you're checking all those boxes, or do you just assume that because you have some third party that's taking on some of the responsibility that you have none, which is not how that generally works. And even in SaaS, that, if you add in bad code and things that lets the hackers in, that you have some responsibility there. There's lots of moving parts here that really should be looked at. And so many of us, we get caught up in our day-to-day, and we don't take the time to sit down and think about, okay, am I happy with the vendors that I have? Am I miserable with them? But, kind of like having a cell phone that cutting out now and then, that you're having support issues, you're having technical issues, that you put up with it longer than you should, or the cable company that you think you can't replace. Well, in the e-commerce space, there are options. There are lots of great options. And so from my vantage point, it's really just about taking the time, whether that's quarterly, biannually, whatever it may be, to sit down and review, and are we on pace? What's changed in this strategic plan? And what are the risks that we currently have in terms of being able to ultimately achieve that? And there'll always be changes. I mean, the last couple of years have certainly proven that out to, I think, most, if not all folks that I've come across. But I think that for me, that the secret sauce is that there is no secret sauce. Is that, yes, you can be in the right place at the right time, and that you can benefit from a lot of that. But, imagine we saw sites that were in the right place at the right time and weren't ready for the influx of traffic that they had in the last couple of years, or weren't ready for increases in fraud or hacking or other things that we've come across. And so, proper planning goes a long way.
I would say, and this is a tip for life as much as anything, don't be worried or afraid of a negotiation. Go into it picturing that there's a win-win scenario and aim for slightly better than that.
Start thinking about, how do you build amazing content? We know that people love content, right? They look for things, they seek inspiration. Build content and seek to partner with people who are already great at building content, creators of various types. Like I said, this podcast is a really great example of that. And so, build content and partner with people who build content. That is the most resilient way to ensuring that you will have durable and compounding engagement with your customers.
I would say that writing long form content is worth it, but it is only worth it if the business owner is committed to doing it for a long period of time. So think about committing to SEO for 12 months and putting all the resources and effort in to do that. If there isn't the full 12-month commitment, it's not worth doing. And the reason is their money will be wasted if the project is abandoned at 3, 4, 5 months. And I don't want to see D2C business owners go through that. I'd rather have them invest in other channels where there's a faster payback period. And then once they become more profitable, invest in SEO.
I would say if you have a shop online and you have a blog already, definitely take a look and review that content to see what is too similar and what may be, competing against each other, and then see how you can optimize those pieces.
Thank your customers. Yeah, but wait until set up the automation so that it goes out after the product has been fulfilled, because you don't want to be thanking them for something that's been delayed in the post. Sounds very obvious, but it's happening.
Yeah, so I would say my top tip is if there's anything you take away from this, it's to change your thoughts about what customer support has historically been seen as. Because customer support has historically been seen as an additional cost for your brand, right? It's never been seen as a way to actually, make profit and to, be a legit revenue stream for your business. So if there's anything that should be taken away from this episode, it's that customer support can be your next big profit center. There is so much opportunity there. And when you invest in your customer experience, you will see the return.
Get a friend or a relative to sit down in front of you and watch them struggle with your site, and figure out all the points where they're having problems and go and fix them.
I would go with
prioritizing customer research. So I can't emphasize this enough. You have to know more about your customer behavior, because we're all in the game of changing customer behavior. That's what we do with our ads, campaigns, whatever we are doing. And if you don't know the habits that the customers, your best customer have, and if you don't do this type of research, you will spray and pray. And nowadays it's too expensive to spray and pray. The gold days are gone right now.
I think it's really getting a hold of the data. Even if you can't afford a lot of technology today, at some point in the near future, machine learning is going to become the norm for e-commerce brands. And to leverage machine learning and to take advantage of it, you need to have your historical data, because you need fuel to feed the machine, right? And so if you do nothing else right now, begin gathering your data, begin organizing it, get control of it, so that when the time comes, you have that fuel to feed into the machine and you're prepared to really keep up with the pace of the market.
If you have an online business, the thing I would recommend is really looking hard at what you can do to enjoy other people's traffic and attention. Like how can you collaborate and share? So I would definitely invest time into that. Like, talk to other CEOs that you know, find other brands that you like and think would be a great partner for you, and do the same thing with influencers. So don't necessarily go to the influencer just saying, will you please promote my stuff? Instead, basically, in certain cases, you'll be the first person to talk to them about this, because again, it's 99% aren't doing it yet, is saying to them, have you ever thought of converting your followers to customers? And, we'd love to contribute our product into your store so that you can get started on doing that. And you'll probably find that conversation will be much more interesting to them than just saying, please tell everybody to buy my stuff.